Hello. It is late September 2022 and Trent and I are in the Mountain Bridge wilderness of South Carolina for a 3-day backpacking adventure. Starting in Jones Gap State Park, we're going to make our way over to Caesar's Head State Park and then loop back. Although we're approaching the beginning of fall, it is very much summertime vibes out here still. The temperatures during the day will be in the 70s, at night in the 50s, a low chance of rain. We're looking forward to a beautiful couple days in the woods. We're excited to get going, and it's time to hit the trail. That's right. Coming up to the Rainbow Falls Trail, we're going to hop up to the top, a bit of a climb, and enjoy the falls. A miniature waterfall coming down this big rock face as we continue towards Rainbow Falls. We made it! Rainbow Falls! Really, a lot bigger than I thought it would be. Awesome sight.
Absolutely stunning.
We got a snake here just chilling in the water of the falls, enjoying a cool bath on a warm day. Here's the second snake that we've seen. I guess he thinks he's hiding under that rock, huh? Here is the third snake in the past 5 minutes. Making our way down from Angel Falls. The trail was a little rowdy coming up, but we made the smart move to stash our packs at the bottom. We finished up our detour to check out Rainbow Falls, and now we're back on the Jones Gap Trail for the rest of the day today. Jones Gap Falls, our final falls of the day, but not our final falls of the trip. The Jones Gap Trail, which closely parallels the Middle Saluda River, started its existence over 150 years ago as a wagon toll road founded by Solomon Jones. In 1858, the cost for one head to travel by foot along the toll road was a nickel, 5 cents. Home sweet home. Campsite 15 along the Jones Gap Trail. We've got the last vestiges of sunlight pouring through the forest. It's time for us to get set up. South Carolina's Mountain Bridge Wilderness area covers 13,000 acres, encompassing the Eastern Continental Divide as well as 2 state parks, Jones Gap and Caesar's Head. On this trip, we're using the Blue Wall Upstate SC/NC map by Pisgah Mapco. Let's take a look at the map for day 1. We started at the Jones Gap State Park parking, followed the Jones Gap Trail to the Rainbow Falls Trail, which took us to Rainbow Falls, retraced our steps back down the mountain, back to Jones Gap Trail, Jones Gap Falls. We continued along Jones Gap Trail for the rest of the day until we set up camp at camp number 15. Day 1 was about 6.5 miles. Day 1 of our backpacking adventure in the Mountain Bridge Wilderness has been a great day. Really beautiful hiking for us through the forest and along the Middle Saluda River, and both of the waterfalls exceeded my expectations, especially Rainbow Falls. It was really high, water coming down, and 3 snakes at the base of it, although we think 2 of them had perished in the water. We've got camp set up at beautiful site number 15. We're getting settled in for the evening. The sun is setting. It's almost dinner time. As long as nothing crazy happens, that'll be the end of day 1. Good night. Good night. Good morning. We made it to day 2 of our backpacking adventure in South Carolina's Mountain Bridge Wilderness. How'd last night go for us, Trent?
Oh, Layne, it was magnificent. We had in the low 50s. We got into camp around 6. Gave us plenty of time to set up. We had this beautiful stream maybe 100 yards from us to kind of sing us to sleep. We did play a few rounds of chess. I unfortunately took the loss on quite a few of them, but it made quite an interesting evening. Very peaceful, restful night's sleep, and we've got breakfast in us. We're geared up. We're ready to go for day 2.
In day 2, we're planning to go about 10 miles or so today. We've got several highlights to look forward to. The Raven Cliff Falls overlook, and then hopefully in the second half of the day, we'll check out a couple waterfalls along the way. So we've got camp packed up and we're ready to hit the trail. Making our way along the Tom Miller Trail. There's a bit of a rambunctious climb away from the Middle Saluda River. We're about to cross 276 and then hop on the Raven Cliff Falls Trail. They get married. Raven Cliff Falls overlook, and there are Raven Cliff Falls. Breaking off the Raven Cliff Falls trail, we're gonna hop on the Dismal Trail and then the Natureland Trust Trail. Another absolutely gorgeous day for us today as we descend the steep and treacherous Dismal Trail. Finishing up the Dismal Trail, now we're hopping on the Natureland Trust Trail. Detouring along the Asbury Trail, heading towards Asbury Falls. I reckon this is Asbury Falls. Very small water flow, but a big awesome cave. Matthews Creek. Pink blazing on the Trust Trail. On our final detour of the day, heading towards Moonshine Falls. We're at the base of Moonshine Falls. Perhaps they received the name from all these old moonshine barrels. One sign says Confusion Falls, one sign says Timmy Falls. This is the third waterfall of this little detour. Maybe this one's Confusion Falls or Timmy Falls. The signage is a little bit confusing, but it doesn't matter. It's cool to see. Back on the Natureland Trust Trail, after bagging 3 more waterfalls, heading towards camp. We thought we were done with waterfalls for the day, but we've got a surprise here. It's been a pretty steep climb between D2 and D1, but we are closing in on home for the night. Home sweet home. We made it to D1. The stretch between D2 and D1 was gnarly.
Very.
The hardest part of the trip.
Very challenging.
But we're here, we're home. Time to get set up and enjoy the evening. The Blue Ridge Escarpment, where mountains drop into foothills, shape the hardy terrain, granite boulders, and tumbling waterways that make up the Mountain Bridge Wilderness. Let's take a look at the map for day 2. We started at campsite 15, finished off the Jones Gap Trail, took the Tom Miller Trail to 276, crossed over onto the Raven Cliff Falls Trail, enjoyed the overlook, dropped down the Dismal Trail to connect with the Natureland Trust Trail. We then hopped on the Asbury Trail to Asbury Falls, retraced back to the Trust Trail, continued on to the Moonshine Falls detour, where we saw the 3 set of waterfalls, came back, and then as we continued along the Natureland Trust Trail, it got really difficult for a while, and we've got camp set up at D1. Day 2 was about 10 miles. Day 2 of our backpacking adventure in the Mountain Bridge Wilderness was a great day of sights and a tough day of hiking. We saw 6 waterfalls today and spent most of the day in Caesar's Head State Park. But the last couple miles coming up the Trust Trail definitely made us tired and very happy to arrive at camp and get set up to relax for the evening. What did you think of today, Trent?
Yeah, and I think we're glad to be in D1 here. It's comfy and cozy. I think this kind of trip was extremely rewarding to see all the waterfalls. We could not have asked for better weather. The challenge is great mentally and physically. I had a couple of times, I know, just having to dig deep and push. But I mean, if you're out here and you're coming out here, come prepared, but prepare to be mesmerized, because there's a ton of beauty out here. Nature is calling, so I'd say, get out here, definitely give this a shot. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm tired, like you said, Layne, but great day 2.
One step at a time and you can get through a lot, isn't that right?
That's right, one foot in front of the other is what we always say. Well, as long as nothing crazy happens, that'll be day 2.
Good night.
Good night.
Good morning. We made it to day 3 of our backpacking trip in South Carolina's Mountain Bridge Wilderness. Night 1 was in Jones Gap State Park, night 2 was in Caesar's Head State Park, and both nights were only a couple miles from the North Carolina border, which probably allowed the great nights of rest that we had over the past 2 nights. It seems like our perfect weather could be breaking a little bit this morning. The forecast a couple days ago said there was a 20% chance of showers after 2 p.m., but it already started sprinkling a little bit around 8. So we're hopeful for the best, but we're already packed up dry. If a little rain comes down, it won't be too big of a problem. We've got 6 miles to finish off the day today. The majority of that will be along the rim of the Gap Trail, and then we'll be back to our car at Jones Gap State Park. Camp's packed up, and we're ready to hit the trail. Let's take a look at the map for day 3. Starting at our campsite D1, we're going to finish off the Natureland Trust Trail, hop on the Frank Coggins Loop to the rim of the Gap Trail, and that will take us back to where our car is parked at the Jones Gap State Park parking. Day 3 will be about 6 miles for a trip total of approximately 22.5 miles. We've seen quite a few of these very old metal trail markers out here. They say the Mountain Bridge Trail, so maybe the Natureland Trust Trail used to be a different trail back in the day. Only a couple hundred yards from camp and we've come across a big old paddy out here. Finishing up a short road walk on 276. Now we're gonna knock out the rest of the Trust Trail, and that'll be it for this trail that's been fairly difficult for us yesterday and today. Heading on to the Rim of the Gap Trail after a short jaunt on Frank Coggins. This will be our last trail of the day, heading towards Jones Gap State Park. After the rain scare this morning, it's turned into a beautiful day so far. Continuing along the Rim of the Gap Trail, it's gotten much nicer for us. There was a couple miles there where it was an extremely difficult traverse. Really beautiful trail. Lots of views across the other side of the rim. Big rock formations. Plentiful amount of small waterfalls, but definitely a difficult hike, especially with a pack on. However, it looks like our last mile or two is gonna be smooth sailing back to Jones Gap State Park parking. Alrighty, Trent, we've spent 3 days exploring South Carolina's Mountain Bridge Wilderness. How has the overall experience been?
Past 3 days were a challenge, but they were so rewarding. Really been friends with Layne since high school, and it's really good to get out here on the trail just to get away from everything and just enjoy the physical challenge, the beauty that this has to offer, especially here in South Carolina. I would call this a hidden gem. I'd say Jones Gap Trail was absolutely phenomenal. I think some of the highs that we saw were Moonshine Falls, Confusion Falls, and Timmy Falls. I mean, they're just spectacular. If you're willing to put in the work, you know, to go off the road, go off the trail, get a couple of hikes in, it's hard to beat. So do it alone, do it with friends, however it is, get on the trail.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Another adventure in the books, Mountain Bridge Wilderness. We took care of it. A lot of the hiking was more difficult than I anticipated coming in, but we made it. We're finished up. Beautiful hiking, tons of waterfalls, lots of beautiful streams and forests. We survived, and we had incredible weather over the past 3 days. It's time to go get some real food, get home, and take some nice hot showers. That'll be the end of it. Goodbye. Bye.